Halo is delayed. Pinch me, honestly, somebody wake me up. Is this a fucking bad dream? What the fuck are Xbox gonna do now? Honestly, I really fear for the Series X after this one. Wow. I mean, what the fuck? Okay, firstly, fair enough. Fair play. This is huge. It's probably the smartest bit of business I've seen in the gaming industry ever. But the big question that's been breaking the internet since this announcement is, does that mean that Elder Scrolls and Fallout and other great Bethesda franchises are now going to be Xbox exclusives? Well, I'm here to tell you why the answer is no. Probably. Firstly, let's take a quick look at the announcement. Today is a special day as we welcome some of the most accomplished studios in the game industry to Xbox. We are thrilled to announce Microsoft has entered into an agreement to acquire ZeniMax Media, parent company of Bethesda Softworks. As one of the largest, most critically acclaimed, privately held game developers and publishers in the world, Bethesda is an incredibly talented group of 2,300 people worldwide who make up some of the most accomplished creative studios in our industry across Bethesda Softworks, Bethesda Game Studios, ID Software, ZeniMax Online Studios, Arcane, Machine Games, Tango Gameworks, AlphaDog, and Roundhouse Studios. These are the teams responsible for franchises like The Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Wolfenstein, Doom, Dishonored, Prey, Quake, Starfield, and many more. Now, there's a lot more shit in here that you can read. I'll leave the link in the description, but that's pretty much the gist of it. So, as you can see, there is a huge amount of really important IPs now actually owned by Microsoft. This is an absolutely insane business move by them, and one that took the world by complete surprise. I mean, how much stuff has leaked out from behind the scenes with Xbox this year, and yet somehow they managed to keep this deal quiet. But it didn't come cheap. Microsoft paid $7.5 billion for this acquisition. Just let that settle for a second. $7.5 billion. Now, in terms of media enterprise acquisitions, let me give that number a bit of perspective for you. Facebook paid $1 billion to acquire Instagram. Disney paid $4 billion to acquire Star Wars. Probably the biggest film franchise in history. All its merchandising rights, everything. $4 billion. That's $3.5 billion less than Xbox paid to acquire Bethesda. I don't know if you noticed in the June PS5 gaming conference and then the one more recently this month, Ghostwire Tokyo and Deathloop were both shown as PlayStation 5 exclusives, and both of those games are published by Bethesda. Well, why? Why have Microsoft let this happen? I mean, these talks can't have just happened overnight, right? Phil Spencer didn't just walk into Bethesda Studios, get to the reception desk and just say, we'll have this, we'll take it. All of it. 7.5. This deal must have been on the table and in talks for a substantial amount of time. Well, this is our first indicator that Xbox exclusivity for any games that come out in the future under the ZeniMax umbrella is probably not the way that Microsoft are going to play this one. Phil Spencer spoke on CNBC where he explained that all contracts already signed, i.e. Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo, would be honoured by Microsoft. But that only explains contracts that have already been signed. So what does that mean for the future? What does that mean for Elder Scrolls and Fallout? How will PlayStation 5 users ever get to experience Bethesda's broken, buggy calamities that somehow always end up being some of the best games on the market? Well, Microsoft were pretty vague about this. They said going forward, each game would be handled on a case-by-case basis when it comes to exclusivity. But why? You've just dropped 7.5 billion on this company. Why would you not come flying out of the gate and say, yes, any future Bethesda game that's not already tied up in a contract will be going exclusively to the Xbox? Well, this indecisive attitude is our second and most important indicator as to why these games will likely not be exclusive to the Xbox. When I read this, that was my light bulb moment. Bing! And I'll explain why. Let's be totally honest here and say that Xbox completely fucked this like road to launch window for the Xbox Series X. They fucked it. The gameplay showcase was a fucking disaster, void of any gameplay. The Halo showcase was basically a meme. I mean, it was awful. It was painfully obvious that the game was in no state to be released this year. Halo then got delayed, then the Series S leaked, so they just dead dropped the announcement of that. Then the prices leaked, so they just dead dropped the announcement of those. And here's one that will blow your mind a little bit if you haven't already clocked onto it. We are now a little over 6 weeks away from the launch of this console, and we are yet to see a single piece of gameplay from an Xbox Series X game running on an Xbox Series X. Just let that one sink in for a second. Back in March, we saw Austin play Ori and the Blind Forest briefly on the Xbox Series X, a game which came out 5.5 years ago. He then showed us a couple of other Xbox One games on the Series X and how you could seamlessly switch play between those games. And yet here we are, 7 months down the line, 6 weeks away from launch, and that is the only software we've seen running on an Xbox Series X. So with all that in mind, it comes as absolutely no surprise that Xbox announced this big Bethesda deal the day before pre-orders for the Series X go live. Because this is their last chance saloon. This is their last hope and ticket to save the Xbox Series X from dying a death in the market. They're hoping that this acquisition alone will sell consoles, because they know that people like me and you will be sat at home thinking, fuck, I don't want to live in an Elder Scrolls-less world. But what does that have to do with their indecisiveness on the exclusivity of games? Well, it's because what if it doesn't work? What if buying Bethesda doesn't sell Xbox consoles? Well, I mean, it'll sell some, sure, but what if PlayStation 5 still blows Xbox Series X out of the water in terms of sales? Well, this is where we see how much of an absolutely genius move this was by Microsoft to purchase Bethesda. By buying one of the biggest developers in the market, Xbox have now ensured market success no matter what happens with the Series X. Here's why. Let's say that hypothetically, by the time Elder Scrolls 6 is ready to be released, the PlayStation 5 has sold 30 million units, and the Xbox Series X has sold 10 million units. At that point, it doesn't serve as much benefit for Microsoft to make that game an exclusive title to the Xbox, because even if everybody with an Xbox Series X bought that game, it would only sell 10 million copies. If they allow the game, however, to be sold on the PlayStation 5 as well, they would sell potentially another 30 million copies. And being that Xbox are now the publishers of this game, Xbox make money off every sale, no matter what console it's sold on. And let's be real, whilst it was an impressive move to make by Microsoft, it doesn't detract from the fact that everything else Microsoft have done in the run-up to the launch has been a total disaster, whilst the PlayStation 5 have put on a pretty impressive display. And for that reason, it's still very unlikely that the sales figures of the Series X will get anywhere near the sales figures of the PS5. Essentially, to summarise, Microsoft stand to make much more money by allowing these big titles such as the Elder Scrolls and Fallout to be available across all consoles than they do if they were to make it an Xbox exclusive. So that is why we can all stop worrying that future big Bethesda releases will be only available on the Xbox Series X. So sleep easy, all you lucky fuckers who managed to get a PS5 on pre-order. Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Doom, they're all still heading your way. And that's it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, as always, please leave a like on it. It really helps out with algorithm stuff. If you're new here, please subscribe. We're trying to hit 300 by the end of the year. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.